Yo, what is guys? Welcome back to the review. Welcome to part 2 of me reacting to Luigi's Mansion Beta Revisited. So yeah, do watch part 1 if you have not watched part 1 yet. Do watch part 1 because in that video I reacted to this portion of the video, and now everyone's reacting to this portion. So here we go. Let's get right to it.
He'll want to add Luigi to his collection. At this point, I think it's about time to say
it's a made-up tale. It's a total fabrication. This one was invented by a writer.
It's not real. It never was. They made it up. I mean, this issue of Nintendo Power came out a month after the game released in Japan.
What?
If it were real, it would have been in the Japanese version of the game, or at least in the files of it, which it is not. And technically, according to the game's files, the Japanese version was actually finished on August 28th, 2001, specifically at 3 in the morning.
Oh,
that
geez.
was almost 2 months before the release of this Nintendo Power issue, and the writers of this article would have been very well aware that this ghost didn't exist. So no, the ghost wasn't removed to keep the game from getting a teen rating. All of those rumors came to be simply because a writer at Nintendo Power wanted to make a joke. Funny how that happens. To be fair, what really got people confused was the fact that this article uses a ton of early promo stuff. Despite the fact that the key art is from the final version, they still used an early ghost here, and all the screenshots are from an early build as well. It's nice though, because they do show off a number of changes, completely different from the E3 2001 build in May and the retail build released in September. Like a first-person camera on the Game Boy Horror, and this ghost counter looks strangely like a repurposed overheat meter.
Yep.
Turns out this meter is still in the retail build. LM Finish, who I mentioned before, actually made a cheat code to have it reappear in the final version of the game, and it's completely functional too. It can only count up to 10 ghosts, and after that the meter just stays full until you warp into a new area, or the ghost reset command is used, like when Luigi finishes training in Luigis Lab.
Man, unused findings on Luigi's Mixture are so freaking interesting.
You know, when I first made my video around, I guess 8 years ago, this page on the cutting room floor was incredibly small. I mean, decompressing the files in Luigi's Mansion and especially viewing the models, it was unheard of. But over the years, people figured it out. And now, this page has exploded. There's unused models, animations, and even now, just recently found, an unused multiplayer mode that still functions.
Wait,
So
what? It still
check out some of the
functions?
most
Hold up, wait a
interesting
minute.
findings.
Something ain't right.
Now, the first thing I want to talk about is the game's internal name. Over the years, we've heard some interesting ones before, like Mario Galaxy being called SMR for Super Mario Revolution. But for Luigi's Mansion, the root file in the game simply refers to the game as Project 1. Let's boot up the game and head over to Luigis Lab, shall we? Here, with the help of an action replay code, we can walk around the place, something not possible when playing the game normally. Turns out there's a lot more to see in this lab besides Luigi's gorgeous complexion. There's actually a whole area over here to the right that you can't see in the final game. Well, you do technically get a view of it as a pre-rendered background behind Egad when he calls you on the Game Boy Horror. Now, what are these rooms exactly? Well, a sign on this door says training room, so I'm gonna guess that one's the training room. Though I guess it doesn't particularly matter because there's nothing behind any of these doors, and they were never able to be opened either because they were modeled into the environment. The ladder to the left, thankfully, is usable. You can actually climb all the way to the top, but once you reach it, you'll fall right back down onto Egad. And
My
start
bad.
shivering? Because apparently Egad is cold as ice. Now, why did they bother making this lab
you
so
know,
big
cold,
if you
man.
can't see half of it?
Cold-blooded.
Well, it turns out originally, you were supposed to be able to walk around it. You could have used the doors to enter different rooms, and climbing up the ladder would take you back to the mansion. Using the Game Boy Horror here, which once again isn't possible in normal gameplay, it'll show you the map of the room with Luigi in it, as well as some unused text that says Underground Lab on top. Notice how the L in lab isn't capitalized. This gives us a hint as to when it was made, likely sometime close to E3, since much like the demo, the second word is never capitalized, probably because it was so rushed to get translated before the show. I mean, look, the master bedroom in this demo is literally called Bedroom 1.
What?
And much like the Underground Lab, they didn't even bother to capitalize the second word room either.
I know.
Without any
kinda
hacks or
sad.
cheats, you can still pull up this map in the training room and gallery, just with different highlighted rooms with Luigi in it. But if we know what these 3 rooms are, what's this one? Turns out it's the Ghost Portrificationizer room.
What?
And according to its unused map model highlighting the room, it would have been accessible too. There's even an early model of that room that went unused called H_02.bin. It's incredibly similar to the E3 version and even has a little door jut out here, which isn't in the final version of the room because, well, the player wouldn't exactly need a door here since they can't walk around the room normally anyway. According to the map, the door would have led to the underground lab, but for some reason, instead of a door being here that leads to the gallery, there's a dirt pile. So at
What?
this point, it doesn't seem like the portrificationizer room would have actually connected to the gallery, which is weird because according to the map, that means there would be no way to get there. Maybe earlier on, there was a door connected to the gallery via the training room, but that's all speculation. For all we know, things could have been planned to be wildly different than this map shows, which by the way was edited up until 2 months before E3 2001, around 1 AM, and it wasn't messed with again after that.
It turns out this isn't the only unused map.
Whoa, what
Luigi's
is that?
Mansion. There's another one that covers the
It kind of looks like an
entirety
Animal
of the
Crossing
mansion.
item
And
or
it includes
something, you
this
know?
Interesting Luigi doll that would have functioned as the Luigi's in this room marker. It turns out this unused map, you know, is functionally the same as the final game, but it's the layout of the E3 demo. So now we can actually
What?
look at the E3 demo in full with the help of an easy-to-view map. So let's take a look, shall we?
Well, the first thing you'll definitely notice is all of these boarded up doors that were designed to keep players from accessing unfinished parts of the game, like the anteroom, the twins room, the ballroom, the billiards room, the laundry room, the fortune teller's room, and reaching the rec room and the second and third floor of the mansion. But there
Oh shoot, we got an ad on here. My bad. Oh, it's still a Switch ad though. Okay, yeah, cool.
aren't just boarded up doors to show.
Okay, whatever.
There's also some additional doors too that aren't in the final game, like
What?
a new door to the conservatory directly across from the bathroom.
Dang.
But it's also boarded up. The door that leads to the conservatory in the final build would have been right here, but it's not, and happens to be one of the few doors that weren't in the E3 build and were added in later, like the left door to the courtyard and the doors in the hallways that led to the stairs. In the dining room, there's also another block door which shouldn't be there. We saw it earlier in the video, but now we know where it leads according to this map, which turns out to be the projection room, which in the final game could only be reached through the billiards room. And moving further down the dining hall, there's another door that was scrapped before release, which would have led you back to the hallway. And across from that door is another scrap door that would have connected
Jeez,
the
how
dining
many scrap
room
doors
to
are
the
there?
billiards room, unlike the retail build where they never connect. It seems like having multiple doors to the same room was a very common thing in the E3 version of the mansion. I mean, look, even the kitchen had a door straight to the laundry room, though like many of the other ones, it too was blocked. Because of all those blocked doors, that's all the players could see in the E3 demo that was on the show floor. But thanks to this map, we can see what other secrets the mansion held that players back in 2001 couldn't document for us. Like an additional door on the second floor to the wardrobe, which is actually a pretty big deal because it means that the entire second floor would have been connected. You wouldn't have had to go to the trouble of going all the way back downstairs from the second floor hallway to go right back up some stairs in the foyer to finally reach the wardrobe room. It was all connected together. Heck, even this hallway door here led right to the second floor of the foyer.
Dang.
The third floor also had a ton of scrap doors too. In fact, originally, those doors connected each of the rooms to every single one of their surrounding
Look how
rooms.
symmetrical
And
that
hey,
is,
look
though.
at that.
Just
They
look
find
how
extra room here
symmetrical
that
that
was
is.
scrapped before release.
It's crazy.
Don't know exactly what it was, but still pretty cool. Last is the basement, which is surprisingly almost the same, except for the breaker room being connected via the left hallway instead of the one below it.
Yeah.
Meaning that the door was on the left side rather than on the wall closest to the player. Turns out though, that early breaker room is still in the game's files under the wonderful name B1_C_67. See that door on
What?
the left side? It's a perfect match. And remember how I said that the stairs to the basement were blocked off in the demo? Well, that is true. On the show floor, there were TVs playing videos of Luigi's Mansion that showed things not available in the demo. And in one of those videos, we get a small glimpse of that early breaker room that went unused.
Oh,
Or at least
dang.
a version similar to it. See, it looks incredibly similar. But there's no door on the left wall. And there are no pipes either. But the rest of it looks so eerily similar. Sadly, we can't date this model since there's no entries file listing its last compile date. So it's unknown if this unused room is before E3 or after. But since this version has more stuff than at E3, I'm going to assume after. There's some more stuff from E3 2001 left in the game's files too. Like this image with text saying "from the beginning," which you
What?
probably remember from the title screen in the show floor demo. The Game Boy Horror's timer is also in the files too and fully functional to boot by using a cheat code. Except that it doesn't end at 1:30, it actually goes till 6 AM before resetting back to 0. Using that same cheat with a different parameter, you can also bring back the first-person camera as well that we saw from the Nintendo Power magazine. And there's also that water nozzle we saw in Miyamoto's presentation of the game, as well as another unused model that is exactly the same except red. This was going to be used when spraying out dust, otherwise known when you press L without any elements. The early version of the Poltergust from E3 is here too, as well as a tomato.
Tomato?
Tomato?
What?
No?
Kind
I
of looks
guess I
like the
forgot to
tomato
mention
from
that one.
the
this
Kirby
early
games.
screenshot of the
I'm
kitchen
being
giving
honest,
us
the one that
press
gives you
run E3
full
time,
life, you
we
know.
get our
Only
only
real
glimpse
Kirby
at the
fans
scrapped
can
chef
understand.
ghost and
No, I'm joking.
this tomato. It's unknown exactly what it would have done, but likely the ghost would have used it to attack Luigi at some point.
Yeah,
But
probably.
we're still not quite done with all this E3 stuff yet.
We
We
aren't?
still got this early, unused vase that later found its way in the background of Brawl, and this cute ball ghost, which can be seen here in the E3 trailer. But
What?
technically, while this model, its functionality, and all of these colors went unused, a duplicate of the model was repurposed in the final game. Can you guess where? It's the stars of the observatory. Well, actually in the 3DS version they're called shining ghosts, but back then they looked like falling stars, so we called them falling stars. Even the model itself is called Star, so it's almost like originally they tried to hide the fact that it was once a ghost, and instead pass it off as a star. And speaking of stars, check out this unused star door, which according to advertisements for the game, would have led Luigi to the twin room. There's also an unused heart door too in the game's files, which would have been for the nursery, both of which were only seen for a little bit of time between E3 2001 and Space World 2001, at which point the game was basically the final version. There's actually an incredibly early door design in the game's files too, simply called Door. It comes in two different model formats, which is strange for the game, and was last edited February 23rd, 2001, about 6 months after the game's reveal at Space World and almost 3 months before E3. And since we're on the subject of Space World and these early designs, did you know that these incredibly early ghost designs that used to haunt these halls are unused in the final game as two icons?
What?
No
What
models
the?
set.
Those are.
But we did
What
get
it
a
goes to
little
the
lucky,
left? It
because
looks like
even
the
though
one.
these early ghost models aren't
The
here
one goes
anymore,
from
some early animations are. Specifically
Ghostbusters,
from
like the
E3
Slimer.
game.
He looks like
There's
Slimer a
early
little bit.
appearing animations, as well
A bit.
as
If it was
Basher
green,
animations
like
that have been
the one
ported
to-
by the
like,
game's developers.
if it was
to
green, like
every single
this
one of these
ghost, it'd be
ghosts.
looking like
There's
Slimer a little
Basher
bit.
scaring, Basher's failing, Basher's getting caught in a flashlight. The twirler even has an extra E3 animation too that the others don't, an early ground pound. But you know what
What?
else it has? A punching animation.
Oh,
In the final game,
jeez,
the
man, this
twirler
goes
never punches.
finna
That's
throw
safe
some
for,
hands, bro.
well, the puncher
Finna
goes.
throw some
And I
hands.
guess the gold ghost also does some punching too, rendering this animation unused for the twirler. Also, all of these ghosts have one more unused animation in common.
What?
Being blown away, which would have
What?
originally maybe been an early animation
Huh?
for when they escaped Luigi's vacuum. But that's not all. Oh, no. We've also got early unused variations of animations for the grabbing ghosts, like Spawn, Scare, and Fail. And the ceiling
What?
ghost also has waiting, which never happens because it immediately scares. Capturing, which also never happens because it has 0 HP and gets sucked up immediately. Frustrated, which would play whenever it failed to blow up
Frustrated.
Luigi. And vanishing upwards?
What?
Strange. It's called ceiling ghost for a reason. It hangs down from the ceiling. There's no point where it flies upward like that. It was later replaced with this swinging animation, which makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
Unless originally, it didn't always fall from the ceiling. Oh, and also the bowling ghost has some similar unused animations too, like chasing even though it never moves, and capturing even though it has 0 health. Now, there's a few more
0
animations I
health.
still want to talk about. One is for Lydia, specifically the one from E3 where she turns around and becomes vulnerable, and the rest are for Luigi. Not the model
Luigi.
that was used in the
Luigi.
game, though, but instead an unused
Mama
Luigi
Luigi.
model, which honestly doesn't look all that different. What makes him interesting is all of these early animations he's bundled with. Some of them are actually from Space World 2000, but most are from
What
E3.
is Space World? Someone
like
please in the comments
squatting,
down
walking
below.
while
Tell me what
squatting,
Space World is. I'm so
barrel
confused on
rolling,
what Space
and
World is.
2 different temper tantrums. A small one and a demon exorcism. Now, of course, this isn't actually a demon animation. This is just a joke. You don't need to write any creepypasta. Okay.
But you know, there is one other creepypasta-like animation in the game. Though it's more than just an animation, it's more like a state of being. It's poisoning Luigi. Here, let me show you. By using
Poisoning
an action
Luigi?
replay code,
Don't-
we can
don't
actively
poison my boy.
Luigi, causing him to
What?
move around too
Is he
rapidly,
choking himself?
losing coins
Luigi,
and
yo,
health, and at
chill.
the end of the animation,
This kid trying to
he'll
commit suicide.
slap his face in order to get back to normal. Yeah, this animation uses an otherwise unused eye texture, and the current consensus is that it was originally going to be triggered by a poison mushroom, where instead of him shrieking, he would freaking die.
But you know,
That
those
sucks.
sad eyes of Luigi's Pain show up somewhere else in the game too. These early unused ending graphics, which would have likely appeared at the end of the game depending on which rank you got.
These images were built on July 13th, which is about a month after the game's release, so they're really not that old.
Also, in that ending folder, you've also got the file Soshite, which goes unused as
Soshite.
well. It translates to, and now, a present from the doctor, with doctor referring to Professor Egad, since his Japanese name uses the same honorific here, pronounced Hakase, which means
Hakase.
doctor or an expert. Remember how in the final game, Egad uses the treasure Luigi steals, steals, to give him a new house? Well, taking that into account, it doesn't seem so odd that originally there would have been some text here that says, hey, the professor gave you a gift. Wasn't that nice of him to pay for it with your own
Very
money?
nice of him.
And since
Proud
we're
of
on the
you,
subject
Egad.
of unused graphics, why don't we check out some early placeholder textures? Like this Daisy render from Mario Tennis for the N64. Simply
Mario
called
Tennis,
Test,
dude.
and was used as
That
a
game is so
placeholder
fun,
for the
though.
posters you vacuum off the wall. Or how about this GameCube texture that was likely a placeholder for the psychedelic backgrounds for bosses like Chauncey? And fun fact, the GameCube in this texture is an early design that includes a transparent cover to show the disc spinning. This is the same early design that was used in the Super Mario 128 demo. And honestly, it feels like I talk about this demo every single time I make a video. And hey, if you're interested in this demo, why don't you check out my video on Super Mario Galaxy where I talk about it in full with Scott the Woz. Wink? There are also a ton of icons that went unused too, a couple of them being ones that would have shown when scanning objects with the Game Boy Horror. It's this key and this boo. The key was likely
Boo.
from scanning a chest, and the boo, well, it probably would have been shown when scanning furniture with boos hiding in them. If that's true, it means originally you wouldn't have to use your radar to find them. All you would have to do
What?
is scan every single object in the room. What fun! But that's not all the icons we've got.
Facts.
We've also got some that would have been shown in dialogue windows, like Bowser, Mario, a gold ghost, Nana, and a green toad. These three even have their own colored dialogue boxes that went unused too. It's pretty obvious where they would have been used. Bowser would have been at the final boss, the gold ghost was probably from the scrap dialogue in the intro of it going ugh and boo. Mario was from when he screams out during the well sequence and was actually later used in the 3DS port of the game. Nana probably came from getting smacked with yarn balls, and the green toad is from back when toads had color variations, not all red. In the final game, with the help of some cheats, you can make the toad green to match that scrap dialogue icon. Some other unused color variations are also available for ghosts too, like Shy Guys and Mice. And those aren't the only unused ghosts we can find in the game. Check out this early Bogmire, complete with a
Ooh, wow.
ravishing lower lip. This was compiled July 13th, so a month and a half before the final build of the game. Now, this is cool and hip and all that, but what about ghosts that were completely removed from the game? Like not an early version, but something we've never seen in the game at all. Well, today's your lucky day, viewer, because
Yo.
we do have that. It's called El, a
What
textureless
the?
monstrosity, complete with animations for appearing, moving, attacking,
What is
and
that?
getting hurt.
What is that
As I mentioned
thing?
before, it has no textures.
Like
In
a
fact, it
Godzilla
doesn't even have a
demons
UV
looking
map
thing,
to even
dude.
begin
Jesus.
putting textures on it. So either it never made it far enough to be textured, or it was going to be colored simply by shaders or particles. And speaking of particles, it has some that would have likely been used for attacks, like fire and ice. It even has these things called cores, 3 in fact, 1 for each element in the game. So it looks like El would have originally been an elemental boss used to attack Luigi with all the elements from the game, but in the end, it was sadly scrapped. This boss happens to have been built around a month after E3 2001.
Now, of course, there are some more simplistic, less interesting unused models left in Luigi's Mansion, which, with the power of video editing, I will make appear now. We have a golden table, a ladder for the study, a bathroom drawer, a love seat for the billiards, early pictures, an early medicine cabinet, a baby mobile, as I've learned is
What?
pronounced, a phonograph with a working animation, and, last but not least, room 01A, which actually Ellen Finish has brought it into the game.
It could have simply been a test room or maybe an early version of the Seeker Room, but we're not quite sure because it's so simplistic. There is, however, an actual test room left over in the game along with some other removed rooms, which are very, as some might call it in the business, spooky.
Spooky.
So this is the test map.
Spooky.
It's a
Whoa.
spooky room. This room is complete with a floating Mario portrait, a crying toad, a Luigi arm for cutscenes that's just hanging out in midair, some fire, the butler's candles midway through the floor, and King Boo himself, just without his crown. But this isn't the only room here, as you could probably guess by these doors. Opening the left door or walking through it, that works too. will lead you to the male floating Whirlinda, who never exposes his heart as he's missing his true love. Or more specifically, their rotating dance object. The door in the back of the main area leads to a bunch of tables with collision mapping only on its legs, so you can partially walk through them all. That might seem a little empty and lame, but it turns out on the invisible plane of existence, there's a generator in here, meant to spawn an object of the developer's choosing. It doesn't activate though, so nothing happens. But it turns out the reason for that is the fault of the developer. See, the activator in this room has the wrong name for the generator it's supposed to activate. Renaming it to the actual generator in the room causes a gold rat to spawn whenever Luigi walks in, just like it was supposed to, since this room was designed for testing the rat running around under tables. And fun fact, the thing that tells the rat where to move is called a path, and there are even more paths in here than there are objects to use them, which gives us a glimpse on what was tested in this test map. Things like standard mice, skeleton ghosts, waiters, and there are even 6 additional paths for the Whirlindas. Sadly, these paths don't work anymore. And speaking of not working, let's move to the room on the right, which once again includes the foyer stairs as well as some ladders for testing purposes. Not to mention, King Boo is back.
King
Stay
Boo.
far away, because getting close to him causes the game to crash, because it activates this cutscene with Luigi at the altar and warps him to very specific coordinates. Those coordinates, however, are outside the boundaries of this room, and the game, in an effort to keep Luigi in the room, will crash the game instead.
Looks like Luigi's not going to be leaving here anytime soon.
No, not my boy Luigi.
The other 3 unused maps turn out to be very different versions of the gallery. We've got map 5, which includes the unicorn statues from the balcony instead of the angels.
Cool.
And King Boo's room is incredibly meh compared to the final. Not to mention, doesn't this version of the gallery seem a little small? Turns out it actually is. And if you replace the final gallery with this one, the Clockwork Soldiers, Biff Atlas, Slim Bankshot, Sir Weston, Uncle Grimly, Vincent Van Gore, Bogmere, and Boolicious. Dang it, Boolosses. I literally, since I was a kid, I always called Boolosses Boolicious. I have no idea why. Anyway, they're not in this gallery. Moving on, we've got another version of the gallery here, which is very similar to the last, except it's much longer. Even
It
longer
is?
than the
Oh
final
my gosh,
version
it
of the
is.
gallery. Could this mean that more ghosts were originally planned? Maybe. It's plausible. But it could also just be that they were playing with room scales to see what would work better, and this one just happened to be longer. You never know. The last version of the gallery is a lot different looking, matching the style of the training room more than the finals gallery. Perhaps originally, the gallery was supposed to have the same underground look and feel as the rest of Luigis Lab.
There's nothing here that's really functional, though.
The only thing here that would have done something is an event that might have been activated by talking with Egad. But it doesn't work anymore and has since been replaced by devs with the event where Lydia
Bro, another
says,
ad, are
"Oh
you kidding
dear,
me?"
such a draft."
Bruh.
Don't take candy from strangers.
Why are we mouses?
For our last topic, I've saved a very interesting and very recent find in Luigi's Mansion, and it all has to do with this.
They're
unused
T-posing,
Mario
yo!
model,
Yo,
which
they're
has been
T-posing!
stretched
Yo!
To be the
Oh!
same proportions as Luigi.
Yo, the
And it's
Waluigi
really
T-pose
weirding
virus,
me out, to be
yo!
honest.
That's
For years, we had
insane.
no idea what the purpose was for,
I'm
except
joking.
that maybe it could have been a playable character, or maybe for a scrap multiplayer mode.
Oh,
And it turns out
spicy.
they were actually right. There is a scrap multiplayer mode that still works in the files of Luigi's Mansion, and it was all discovered by Kirby Mimi. A friend of
What?
mine who goes by the name of Swankybox released a video on this finding recently, so be sure to check out that video. Link in the description.
Bet.
For now, let's just kind of give a synopsis on the findings directly from the users of the Luigi's Mansion modding Discord server.
Now, in order to get this to work, all you need is a little action replay code to cause a second Luigi to spawn controllable with the second controller. It isn't perfect, of course. Luigi 2 spawns without his vacuum and invisible, so both these issues needed to be fixed manually before playing. And while you do play, you need to make sure Luigi 1 does most of the work, since Luigi 2 still has a few other issues, like difficulty opening doors. But this whole thing is much more than just simply spawning a second Luigi. There's also a smart split screen function, where the screen would split in two when the players were far enough apart, and come back together when they're close enough. It's honestly incredible that all this is still here and still semi-works. Now the thought is that the unused Mario model that we saw earlier was supposed to be the second player, but the mode was scrapped before he got put in it. I mean, not gonna lie, having a tall stretched out Mario rescuing Mario with Luigi is kinda strange, but maybe they had plans to work around that. There is an unused string in the game mentioning a mission mode, so perhaps something like that was planned, but was eventually sadly scrapped.
Hi, I'm still here. We've still got some unused music and sounds to listen to actually, and some of them haven't even been documented yet. Take these unused Luigi voice clips for instance.
I got you. Hang on, Mario. Luigi got you. Whew, mamma mia.
Dude, I swear, Charles Martin, that makes like the best voice clips.
That one sounded a lot more like Waluigi, to be honest. Anyway, we've got a couple more sounds to look at. The first one is actually from E3, when Luigi was scared by a basher.
Whoa!
And next there's this one, which actually was later used in the Nintendo 3DS port's commercial for the game.
Ooh.
Take a listen.
Ow, oh, oh, nice doggy, nice doggy.
Nice doggy.
Next up, we've got some actual songs. The first one, well, I guess is more or less a song. It was used on the title screen of the E3 demo. Take a listen.
Dude, that music is so creepy.
Next up is Baby Room, which as you can probably assume has something to do with Chauncey. And it turns out it's actually an unused part of the final song that happens when you talk to Chauncey for the first time.
That music is so creepy, dude. I swear to God.
Next up is Totaka Song, which I know is already in the game on the control select screen in the training room, but this is a different rendition of it with an actual purpose besides being an Easter egg. It was to be a part of Melody's quiz. In fact, it can actually be put back in the game with a little bit of cheating, so why don't we give it a try for ourselves?
Let's do it.
Why, yes, I would love to listen. I wrote that. No, you didn't. The answer is Totakeke's theme. Well, that was riveting and spooky and spookily riveting. There's just a little bit more to go now with our last few unused songs, like this drum beat.
I'm finna freestyle to
And
this
this
beat, bro.
remix of the Mario Bros. Theme.
I should've used
This
that.
remix is called Teresa Demo 2 for some reason or another. And can you guess what Teresa Demo 1 is? Turns out it's the music for when boos are released onto the mansion in the final game.
Ooh.
Gonna be honest with you, I have no idea why it was called that. Unless, of course, it was like some second cutscene involving boos where this remix would have played, but it was ultimately removed from the game. Next up, we have a song that goes unused twice. The first one is called Space Room, and the second one is actually a shorter version of it called Total Score. Now, some think this may have been used when clearing all of the ghosts in the room, but I have a different theory. It's called Total Score, right? So I'm thinking maybe, just maybe, it was supposed to play whenever you see the player's total cash. Kind of like this mock-up I made. I don't know why I did that. I just wanted to give myself a video editing challenge at 4:30 in the morning. Last but not least, we have some of the spookiest sounds that went unused in Luigi's Mansion. And you know what the best part is? We have no idea what they were used for, so that just makes it all the more mysterious. So let's get a little more atmospheric. Now, let us listen to some of the strangest, spookiest unused sounds in Luigi's Mansion, playing over some spooky stock footage that I found on page 3 of Google. The spookiest page. Let's take a listen.
What? Dude, what? Bruh. My God, that's creepy, dude.
Well, hey, congratulations on finishing the whole video.
And as a little treat for you who stayed to the end, I want to tell you about Ellen Finish's Luigi's Mansion mod called Luigi's Mix Collection, which sets out to
What?
accurately recreate the
Okay. What the actual heck were those sounds? Like, oh my gosh. Apparently, there's like a rumor that that the Luigi's Mansion game was actually gonna be a teen rating because of like it was like gonna be way more spookier and dark, and maybe those sounds will probably been using that in the game. Anyways, I thank you all for watching. Please do indeed smash the like and subscribe button. Do not forget to comment down below if you indeed want anything to change about this channel. Also, don't forget to ring the bell to never miss a video. And yeah, today is Thursday of the Halloween week. Tomorrow I'm going to be posting a Friday vlog, showing a nice little house/room tour on my Halloween decorations up. So it'll be really cool. So do stay tuned for tomorrow's video. So yeah, I'll see you soon. Thanks so much for watching, and peace.